Nintendo's 2026 lineup isn't about filler or maybe someday games. It's about titles that actually matter. These are the experiences shaping what the Nintendo Switch 2 era feels like, from bold new IPs to unexpected genre shifts you don't want to ignore. This game has been teased for so long, it almost felt mythical. Like, does this actually exist? Well, it does. Pragmata is a third-person action-adventure built around exploration, problem-solving, and deliberate combat. You move through large, isolated sci-fi environments, navigating ruined structures and piecing together what happened through environmental clues rather than constant dialogue. Gameplay regularly shifts between movement, light combat encounters, and hacking-focused puzzles that ask you to slow down and think. Combat isn't about overwhelming enemies with speed, it's about positioning, timing, and using tools wisely. A core mechanic involves coordinating actions with your android companion, especially during encounters where multitasking becomes essential. Progression comes from unlocking new abilities that expand both traversal and combat options, encouraging backtracking and experimentation. Pragmata's strength is its pacing. It constantly alternates between tension and quiet reflection, letting gameplay breathe. It's a game that rewards curiosity and patience rather than rushing objectives. This feels like the kind of game you randomly discover, and then immediately start telling everyone about. Orbitals is a two-player co-op adventure designed entirely around teamwork and shared problem-solving. You play as two space explorers navigating a damaged space station where every challenge requires coordination. Movement, puzzles, and encounters are built so that players must communicate, time actions together, and react to each other constantly. One player might activate mechanisms while the other navigates hazards, with success depending on cooperation rather than individual skill. The game avoids long tutorials, instead teaching mechanics through level design and experimentation. Failure is expected, and learning how systems interact becomes part of the fun. The bright, anime-inspired art style keeps the tone light, even when challenges get tricky. Progress comes from understanding how both characters' abilities complement each other. Orbitals shines because it treats co-op as the core gameplay loop, not a bonus feature. Okay, hear me out. This is one of those games that looks chill at first, and then suddenly you realize you've been playing for way longer than planned. Dispatch is a narrative-driven adventure built around choices, conversations, and managing the everyday chaos of a superhero workplace. Instead of controlling the heroes directly, you play as the dispatcher, making decisions that affect how missions unfold and how characters respond to you. Gameplay revolves around dialogue choices, branching story paths, and juggling multiple situations at once as things spiral out of control. You're constantly reacting, deciding who to send where, how to handle conflicts, and which problems to prioritize. The pacing is intentionally relaxed, pulling you into long stretches of story punctuated by moments of pressure where your decisions actually matter. Progress comes from relationships and consequences rather than skill checks or combat mastery. What makes Dispatch engaging is how natural it feels to slip into its rhythm. You're not chasing high scores, you're managing people, personalities, and fallout.
Hero puts their ass on the line.
This game doesn't look like anything else in Nintendo's lineup, and that's exactly what makes it stand out. South of Midnight is a third-person action-adventure that blends exploration, combat, and storytelling into a very deliberate rhythm. You move through semi-open environments, platforming across broken terrain, solving light environmental puzzles, and fighting enemies using a mix of melee attacks and supernatural abilities. Combat isn't about speed or combos, it's more about positioning, timing, and managing space as enemies surround you. Between fights, the game slows down, encouraging you to explore, uncover story details, and interact with characters tied to regional folklore. Progression comes from unlocking new traversal and combat abilities that let you reach previously inaccessible areas. What makes the gameplay interesting is how tightly it's woven into the narrative. Mechanics aren't just challenges, they're expressions of the world's themes. You're constantly switching between movement, combat, and quiet discovery, which keeps the experience varied without feeling overwhelming.
This is nailed.
This is one of those games where you immediately know, yeah, I should not be playing this alone at night. Reanimal is a survival horror adventure built around careful exploration, stealth, and vulnerability. You spend most of your time navigating unsettling environments, avoiding threats rather than confronting them head-on. When danger appears, the goal is often to hide, run, or outsmart enemies using the environment instead of fighting. Puzzles are woven directly into exploration, forcing you to interact with objects, manipulate spaces, and backtrack through areas that become more dangerous over time. Resources are limited, which makes every decision feel tense. Do you explore further or retreat to safety? The game's pacing is slow and intentional, pushing you to listen, observe, and stay alert rather than rush forward. What makes Reanimal effective is how gameplay reinforces fear. You're not powerful here, and the game constantly reminds you of that through its mechanics. What if Pokemon stopped rushing you into battles and instead said, relax, build a home, hang out with your Pokemon? Pokémon Pokopia is structured as a cozy life sim where your main focus is building, decorating, and maintaining a shared space with Pokemon. Instead of a traditional battle-driven loop, gameplay revolves around daily routines like farming, crafting furniture, expanding your home, and customizing your surroundings. Pokemon actively live alongside you, helping with tasks, interacting with the environment, and forming bonds through repeated low-pressure activities. Progression comes from improving your town, unlocking new tools, and expanding what Pokemon can do with you rather than leveling through combat. There's still interaction and light challenges, but everything is designed to feel relaxed and optional. The core loop rewards consistency, creativity, and time spent rather than mastery or competition. Pokopia is about presence, checking in, slowing down, and enjoying Pokemon as companions, not tools.
Where Pokémon live in peace and comfort.
Nintendo consoles and Resident Evil have a complicated history, and this game feels like Capcom saying, alright, let's fix that. Resident Evil Requiem is built around classic survival horror fundamentals: exploration, limited resources, and constant tension. You move through tightly designed environments, searching rooms for key items, solving puzzles, and unlocking new paths that often loop back on themselves. Combat is slow and deliberate, forcing you to decide when it's worth fighting and when it's smarter to avoid enemies entirely. Ammunition and healing items are scarce, which makes every encounter feel dangerous. The game leans heavily on sound cues, lighting, and camera angles to keep you on edge, even during quiet moments. Progression comes from learning layouts, managing inventory, and understanding enemy behavior rather than powering up. What makes Requiem effective is how it controls pacing, long stretches of exploration followed by sudden panic. It's a game that rewards patience, attention, and restraint more than reflexes. If your dream game is part cozy life sim, part magic school fantasy, yeah, this one's been calling your name for years. Witchbrook plays like a relaxed life sim wrapped around a magical school schedule. Your days are structured around attending classes, learning new spells, and choosing how to spend your free time in the surrounding town. Gameplay revolves around managing routines, studying magic, completing small quests, building relationships, and customizing your living space. Spellcasting isn't about combat pressure, it's about utility, helping you unlock new areas, solve problems, and improve daily life. Social interactions play a huge role, with conversations and choices slowly shaping friendships over time. Progression is gradual and intentional, encouraging you to settle into a rhythm instead of rushing goals. Witchbrook's core loop rewards consistency and curiosity, making it easy to lose track of time. It's designed to feel comforting, familiar, and quietly rewarding rather than demanding or stressful. This is the rare Bond game that doesn't scream licensed cash grab. It actually feels like someone had a real vision. 007 First Light focuses on stealth-driven gameplay where observation and planning matter more than raw action. You're dropped into contained mission spaces and asked to assess threats, patrol routes, and environmental tools before making a move. Sneaking past guards, disabling security systems, and using gadgets creatively are central to success. Combat exists, but it's risky and often a last resort rather than the main approach. Objectives can usually be tackled in multiple ways, rewarding players who stay patient and think like a spy. Gadgets add variety, allowing you to manipulate environments, distract enemies, or gain access to restricted areas. The pacing is controlled and deliberate, encouraging slow movement and careful decisions. First Light captures the fantasy of being a spy by making preparation and restraint feel just as exciting as action. Every Fire Emblem game tricks me the same way. I sit down for one battle, and suddenly it's midnight. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is a turn-based tactical RPG, where every decision happens on a grid-based battlefield. You move units one at a time, positioning them carefully to control space, protect weaker allies, and exploit enemy weaknesses. Combat is built around planning several turns ahead, managing terrain bonuses, and predicting enemy movement rather than reacting quickly. Outside of battles, you spend time managing your army, strengthening bonds between characters, and making choices that influence long-term outcomes. These relationships directly affect combat performance, adding another strategic layer to every fight. Permadeath remains a core mechanic, meaning mistakes can permanently remove characters from your roster. That risk gives every encounter weight. Progression comes from smart planning, not grinding. The game constantly asks you to balance emotional attachment with tactical logic, making victories satisfying and losses genuinely painful.
I shall grant whatever wish you may desire.
This is the kind of game where the art style pulls you in, and then the atmosphere refuses to let go. Mina the Hollower is a top-down action-adventure focused on exploration, combat precision, and environmental discovery. You navigate interconnected areas filled with enemies, traps, and hidden paths, gradually unlocking shortcuts and secrets as you progress. Combat emphasizes timing and positioning, rewarding careful attacks over reckless movement. Enemies have clear patterns, pushing you to observe before engaging. A key mechanic involves burrowing underground, allowing you to dodge attacks, cross hazards, and access hidden areas. This ability becomes central to both combat and puzzle solving. Exploration is non-linear, encouraging backtracking once new abilities are unlocked. The game constantly nudges you to take risks in exchange for rewards. What makes Mina engaging is how tightly its mechanics are designed. Every tool you gain has multiple uses, keeping gameplay fresh while maintaining a steady sense of tension. I still remember the first time I saw this running on Nintendo hardware, and yeah, my brain short-circuited a little. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is an action RPG that blends real-time combat with tactical decision-making. You control characters directly in battle, attacking enemies in real time while pausing to issue commands, switch party members, and activate abilities. Combat constantly asks you to balance aggression with strategy, rewarding players who understand enemy weaknesses and manage resources carefully. Outside of fights, gameplay shifts to exploration, puzzle solving, and story-driven movement through detailed environments. You're often navigating narrow paths, discovering hidden areas, or preparing for the next major encounter. Progression comes from upgrading weapons, learning new abilities, and refining how each character plays. What keeps the experience engaging is its rhythm, intense battles followed by quieter story moments. It's structured to pull you forward while still giving space to experiment, making every chapter feel purposeful and memorable. Splatoon fans, this one's different, and that's exactly why it's so interesting. Splatoon Raiders shifts the series toward a structured adventure format built around exploration and story-driven objectives. Instead of jumping between multiplayer matches, you move through themed zones, completing missions that mix combat, platforming, and puzzle solving. Ink mechanics are still central, used to control space, traverse environments, and defeat enemies, but they're applied in more creative, goal-focused ways. Levels are designed to reward experimentation, letting you approach challenges with different strategies rather than strict solutions. Progression comes from unlocking new tools and abilities that expand how you move and fight. The focus is on learning systems and mastering mechanics rather than competition. Raiders keep Splatoon's energy and style while slowing the pace just enough to let players engage with the world itself, not just the action.
Want an adventure in the mysterious Spiralite Islands alongside Deep Cut.
I still can't believe Nintendo got this developer to make this kind of game exclusively for their console. The Duskbloods is a dark action RPG built around methodical combat, exploration, and player-driven encounters. Gameplay centers on close-range melee combat where stamina management, spacing, and reading enemy behavior are essential. Every fight asks you to commit, careless attacks are punished, and patience is rewarded. The world is semi-open, encouraging exploration through hostile environments filled with shortcuts, hidden paths, and optional challenges. Multiplayer elements are woven directly into the experience, allowing other players to appear unpredictably, turning exploration into a tense mind game rather than a solo journey. Progression comes from mastering mechanics and learning the world, not from hand-holding or constant upgrades. What makes the Duskbloods stand out is how deliberate everything feels. It expects focus, demands respect, and creates tension through gameplay systems rather than spectacle or dialogue.
The moon tears will flow for one.
Sometimes you don't want strategy, puzzles, or emotions. Sometimes you just want to erase an entire battlefield, and this game fully understands that. Dynasty Warriors Origins is built around large-scale combat where you take control of a single warrior facing hundreds of enemies at once. Gameplay focuses on fast, sweeping attacks that let you cut through crowds while reacting to shifting battlefield objectives. You're constantly moving between key points, defending allies, capturing bases, and turning the tide of massive clashes. Combat is designed to feel powerful and fluid, with combos, special moves, and momentum playing a huge role. While the core loop is simple, positioning and timing still matter, especially when elite enemies or rival officers appear. Progression comes from unlocking new abilities and refining your playstyle rather than complex systems. Origins feels like a reset for the series, straightforward, energetic, and built to deliver that satisfying feeling of total dominance without overcomplicating the experience. Some games just look like a long journey, like you already know you're about to get attached to the world and the characters. The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales, is an action-driven RPG built around exploration, combat, and a story that unfolds across different eras. You control Elliot directly in real-time battles, mixing basic attacks, special abilities, and movement to manage enemies in open environments. Exploration plays a major role, with towns, dungeons, and overworld areas designed to reward curiosity rather than rushing objectives. Side paths often lead to character moments, optional encounters, or upgrades that deepen the experience. Progression is tied to both skill growth and story advancement, keeping combat and narrative closely connected. The game's structure encourages steady immersion, letting you spend time in each area before moving forward. What makes Elliot compelling is its balance. Action keeps things engaging, while exploration and story give the journey emotional weight. Portable Fallout is one of those ideas that sounds dangerous, because you know it's going to eat entire weekends. Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition is built around open-world exploration and player choice. You move freely through a massive wasteland, switching between first-person and third-person combat while tackling quests in whatever order you choose. Gameplay blends shooting, looting, dialogue choices, and crafting into a flexible loop where no two playthroughs feel the same. Base building is a major system, letting you gather resources and construct settlements that grow over time. Combat supports multiple playstyles, whether you prefer stealth, heavy weapons, or improvisation. Progression comes from skill investment and decision-making rather than a fixed path. What keeps Fallout 4 engaging is its unpredictability. Small discoveries often lead to unexpected stories. It's a game built around freedom, where wandering off course is usually more rewarding than following the main objective. This is the kind of game that politely asks for your time, and then quietly takes 100 hours of it. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is a traditional turn-based RPG built around long-form exploration and gradual progression. Gameplay revolves around traveling between regions, uncovering towns locked in the past, and restoring them through story-driven quests. Battles follow classic Dragon Quest structure, where party composition, spell usage, and resource management matter more than speed. Progression is steady and methodical, rewarding patience rather than rushing. Outside combat, much of your time is spent talking to townsfolk, uncovering hidden story threads, and slowly piecing together how different locations connect. The game encourages commitment, letting characters and mechanics unfold over dozens of hours instead of front-loading everything. What makes Dragon Quest VII special is its scale and structure. It's not about constant twists, but about living inside a journey that grows deeper the longer you stay with it. If you've never played a Yakuza game before, let me warn you now. This series will emotionally ambush you when you least expect it. Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties blend story-driven exploration with brawler-style combat in a dense interactive city. Gameplay is split between narrative missions and free-roaming segments where you explore neighborhoods, pick up side quests, and stumble into unexpected activities. Combat is real-time and physical, focusing on positioning, crowd control, and reading enemy attacks rather than flashy combos. Outside fights, much of the experience comes from conversations, mini-games, and side stories that flesh out the world and its characters. Dark Ties expands the narrative, adding extra context and emotional depth to the core experience. Progression comes from improving combat abilities and building relationships rather than grinding levels. What defines Yakuza is balance. Intense drama sits comfortably alongside absurd humor, making the world feel alive and unpredictable.
End battles with the ultimate strike.
I don't say this lightly. This is one of the most important games ever to land on a Nintendo system. Elden Ring is an open-world action RPG built around exploration, challenge, and player freedom. You're dropped into a massive world with no strict path forward, encouraged to explore, fight, or retreat based on your own judgment. Combat is deliberate and skill-based, relying on timing, stamina management, and learning enemy patterns rather than button mashing. Exploration constantly feeds into gameplay, with hidden dungeons, optional bosses, and shortcuts scattered in every direction. Progression is flexible, letting you shape your character through weapons, abilities, and playstyle choices. Failure is part of the loop. Death teaches you something every time. What makes Elden Ring special is how personal it feels. Every victory is earned, every discovery feels accidental, and every journey through the world looks completely different from anyone else's.
I will not be far behind.
Nintendo's 2026 lineup is packed with bold ideas, cozy escapes, and some genuinely wild surprises. Let me know which game already has you hooked, hit like if this list helped, and subscribe if you've ever lost an entire weekend to a Nintendo game.